Sometimes our days don't go as planned. Watch how the mother bear praised the girl for saving the sobbing bear cub. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. Before starting basic training, Alice was heading out on her last mountain walk. She was both delighted and afraid. She believed she had an edge because she had lived on the mountain's edge all her life, which would help her in her training. She was out momentarily saying goodbye to her house, and that's what she was doing. She heard horrible groaning noises all of a sudden as she was further up in the hills. She had lived there and walked there for years, but she had never heard this sounds. She approached the location of the noises cautiously, and she was astounded by what she found. The animal was a bear cub. It was perched on a precipice halfway down a precipitous cliff. The cub was wailing for its mother and in grave danger. It seems that Alice was not alone in finding the noises to be sad. At the top of the cliff, the mother bear appeared to be in a panic, trying frantically to descend to her youngster. In an attempt to discover a route down, the mother bear walked nervously from left to right. She tried to scale the cliff many times. Consequently, boulders and sand immediately landed on the bear cub underneath her. Alice was standing off to the side, observing. Although bears are typically excellent climbers, the rock was extremely steep, making the descent more difficult than the ascent. The mother bear tried to descend a few times, but any drop would have taken her all the way to the cliff's base. It was simply too steep of a cliff. The mother became anxious when she realized she couldn't reach her youngster. Both the mother bear and the cub were weeping now, pleading to be together again. Their screams were excruciating, the most upsetting noises Alice had ever heard. Now that the mother bear was expressing her concerns to her cub, it began to ascend the cliff. Disaster struck as Alice watched. Because it was so young, the cub had trouble climbing. It made it up a little, but then it dropped and rolled abruptly. Fearing that she would see the defenseless cub hurt at the base of the cliff, Alice gasped. Although it sounded awful as the cub fell back onto the ledge, at least it was secure again. But the cub's rear leg pierced the rock as it plummeted. It found a weak area and penetrated through. It appeared to be in a lot of discomfort since its leg was jammed. The more it tugged, the more unstable the position got as the cub battled to release its limb. Continued tugging might cause a more serious injury and a more catastrophic fall. Alice could not watch helplessly as the cub met its terrible end. Her instincts prompted her to do something. Despite being an enthusiastic rock climber, she had not brought any climbing equipment. She couldn't collect the necessary equipment from her residence. Making the journey home and then returning would cost her significant time. It would all depend on her abilities. She simply had to attempt to save the cub, even though it would be a perilous and deadly endeavor. Her backpack included a rope, but there was nothing to fasten it to. She would need to quickly free climb. She took everything she didn't need out of her luggage. She then informed her parents of her live whereabouts. She clarified that she will give them an update in around an hour, but that she was not in any difficulty. She didn't want to worry them, but it was necessary since someone had to know where she was in case something went wrong. She had to descend and then maneuver horizontally to reach the ledge containing the cub, since she could not approach the frenzied mother bear too closely. Carefully, she started to descend over the edge. Without the security of a harness, it seemed far more terrifying than her typical climbs. It was one of the hardest ascents she had ever tried, with few handholds and footholds on this extraordinarily smooth rock. She went cautiously, with her fingers and toe tips holding onto the edge. Then her foot slipped without warning. She struggled to restore her equilibrium, a genuinely terrible experience. But she told herself that she just needed to keep going, since she would probably encounter even more terrifying circumstances in the military. Under the blazing heat, beads of sweat streamed down her back. The risks were too high, but she yearned for a respite. A hesitation might lead to a fall. At last, she was level with the ledge and ready to proceed horizontally. Finally, she could feel the ledge beneath her feet, but this portion may have been much more terrifying. It wasn't very broad, but it gave her a sense of independence from what she had been holding on to for the last 30 minutes. In contrast, it was like a vacation. While climbing, she had made an effort to ignore the sound of the weeping bear cub and the anxious mother, but as Alice approached the cub, the mother's scream increased. She was becoming even more alarmed as the mother watched from above. Alice's ascent became much more perilous as a result of falling pebbles and sand from above. She had no way of knowing when a big rock would fall on her. The sounds coming from above implied that the mother bear was worried about Alice's potential to harm her child. Alice was quite relieved that a cliff kept them apart during those stressful moments, since she knew that the mother bear might be a serious threat if they were near one another. The cub became anxious as a result of the mother's worry being transferred to it. It writhed and tugged, trying to get away from Alice. The bear cub was so young that it may possibly hurt her by accident. She was also worried that it would go off the ledge due to its struggles. Speaking to the small bear in calming tones, she positioned herself carefully with her back against the cliff. After some while, things finally became quiet. Her soothing speech and serene manner appeared to resonate with the youngster. Upon approaching and examining its leg in the hole, she could tell that it would be readily able to escape if she only rotated it in the proper way. Alice's initial concern, though, was that the bear cub may tumble if it went in the wrong direction. She pulled the rope from her purse and knotted it around the cub's waist beneath its front paws as it let her touch it. What followed was heartwarming. The little bear had stopped crying and settled down. From above, the mother bear had also become more silent. The young cub seemed to be comforted by Alice's company. It laid its head on her chest while she wound the rope around it carefully. She felt as though the small bear was hugging her. Alice's eyes filled with tears at the scene. The strain to get the cub to safety now increased 100-fold. This bear cub needs to be saved. She then carefully removed the cub's rear leg from the hole, rubbed its head, and wrapped the rope around her own waist as well. There was a slight ache, but nothing that would suggest it was fractured. The leg was somewhat damaged and some of the fur was scraped off, but the injuries didn't appear to be too severe. The next challenging portion followed. She had to think about how they were going to escape this situation. With the cub fastened to her, she would never be able to return to the top of the cliff. The youngster was just too heavy to carry up, and it would also knock her off balance and throw off her center of gravity. Even though this bear was young, he was already rather heavy. Climbing up was impossible for her since she was aware of her own power. It would probably cost them both their lives if she attempted. They would be moving even more away from the mother bear if they went down. That would make it more difficult to locate her later on so that mother and child might be reunited. However, there was no alternative way to save their lives and rescue the cub from the predicament. When they were both back on solid ground, Alice resolved to find a method to return the cub to its mother. Alice and the cub had previously been fastened to the rope. Finding appropriate places to utilize as leverage or for support was difficult, but she had to lower the bear to the ground. She hoped she wouldn't be overwhelmed by the weight. Grasping the rope with her hands, she carefully placed the bear cub over the precipice. This did not sit well with the small boy. From the bear's point of view, its savior seemed to be suddenly dropping it over the precipice. The youngster calmed down as soon as it understood it wasn't falling, but it must have been traumatic for the young bear. Alice let the rope slowly through her hands. The infant rode smoothly to the bottom. In order to anchor the rope with her body, she had to bend as far back as she could. Although it wasn't quite there yet, the cub's weight was close to that of the female. Lowering the bear required all of her expertise. The procedure appeared to be going well until it abruptly took a surprising turn. The cub's excitement to reach the earth increased as it approached. It began to move and wiggle. Alice found it more difficult to hold on to her job as a result. She was being pulled perilously near the brink by the cub's activity. She was drawn nearer the brink little by bit. Then she saw that the rope was loosening. She went to check on the cub and discovered that it had made it safely to the ground. Making sure the young bear wouldn't be in danger, she carefully put the rope aside. It was her time now, but she chose to pause for a moment. The enormous effort of anchoring the cub left her shoulders aching and her arms burning. Alice rested and caught her breath for a few seconds. Her pulse rate rapidly increased once more just as she was beginning to feel it go down. The earth underneath her felt less solid than it had a few minutes before. The ledge was crumbling in pieces. It had held up thus far, but she knew it wasn't very strong or the cub wouldn't have been able to step through due to the fall. She made an effort to ignore it till now. It felt as though the earth would collapse at any second. She moved to the side and cautiously descended since she didn't want to chance it dropping on the cub. She couldn't afford a precipitous tumble just now, although a longer pause would have been wonderful. Although it was slightly easier to cling on, the cliff was not as smooth as the peak. She had been exhausted, and her body resisted the painful experience. When she looked down, the ground was still a long way off, even though it felt like she had been climbing for hours. It was impossible for her to jump. She may not die, but she would probably break a lot of bones. Her career will end before it had really started. It felt like there were as many bricks in the backpack on her back as there were in a home. It was making her feel heavy. She took the rucksack off her back gently, finding a place where she could move about discreetly. She had to lose whatever weight she had. She let the bag fall to the ground after first making sure the cub was there. Although not having to carry the luggage was somewhat of a relief, it wasn't simple. She descended as fast as she could without endangering herself. The earth never seemed to move any closer, it seemed. Her foot, however, landed on firm ground as she grabbed for another footing. Her legs simply gave way. Alice was shocked to learn that she had succeeded. This amazing, powerful woman simply collapsed to the floor. She occasionally questioned whether she would ever make it to safety. The sun was still beating down on her, but it felt great to be lying on the ground. She crept to seek shade, using what little energy she had left. She just laid there, breathing heavily. Her backpack was someplace out of reach, and she didn't have the energy to get up and go look for it, even though she would do everything for some water. As it approached, the cub crawled all over her. It seemed much cheerful and less frightened. She unfastened the rope around the cub's waist and brought it near enough. She was simply too tired to give the youngster the rubs and hugs she desired. Before she had to carry the cub around the cliff and back up the hill, she was attempting to regain her strength. Beside her, the cub was rolling about in play when it suddenly stopped and stood on its hind legs, its ears pricked up. Alice too listened and heard it, a sound of trees breaking and leaves rustling as something moved through the woodland. Alice then experienced a severe fear. The mother bear emerged from the trees beside them. She must have run around the cliff and down the mountain to meet Alice and the cub after realizing where they were going. The bear was upset with Alice the last time she glanced up at it. Was she going to die because of this noble deed? However, the bear had no attention on Alice. The cub rushed for the mother bear as soon as she emerged from the jungle. The mother quickly threw her arms around her child, and the two of them fell to the ground, enjoying a touching reunion. It was heartwarming to see their strong relationship, and Alice found herself wiping away tears. Alice tried to sit up, realizing she should definitely get out, but the bear seemed uninterested. She showed no symptoms of anger. She was totally focused on her kid. Alice chose to take the chance since she was too exhausted to care or go away. With any luck, the mother would realize Alice had been helpful and just take her cub and go. The cub, however, had different plans. It continued to play with its new companion. The cub rushed to play with Alice. She made an effort to push it away, but it persisted. Alice was afraid of what the mother bear would do to her as she tried to push the cub away. She could not have predicted what would happen next. After saving the wailing bear cub, the girl now observed as the mother bear looked about for something. Alice was careful not to move too quickly. Alice was the one who was unable to fully understand the animal's motivations this time, but she was shocked by what transpired next. After leaving with her youngster, the bear reappeared with an object in her jaws. Alice's backpack was it. It was dumped next to her by the bear. The bear then moved back and took a seat at a safe distance. Alice was incredulous. Swiftly reaching for her purse, she removed her water bottle and drank large gulps of icy water. Despite being damaged, The thermal bottle continued to function. Alice nearly dozed off as they sat quietly together. Until she recovered her energy, it seemed as though the mother bear was watching over her. The bear was expressing gratitude to Alice for saving her baby by making sure she was protected until she could stand again. Lying at the base of a massive cliff with a mother grizzly and her baby, simply relaxing together, was an incredible experience. Shortly afterward, Alice heard cries she recognized. Her parents were becoming close. Alice was concerned that when other people addressed the bear, it may respond negatively. Rather, the bear appeared to realize that it was time to bid farewell. Before leaving, the mother bear came up to Alice and gave her foot a gentle pat. Lovingly, the cub rolled over Alice and gave her a tender nuzzle. The cub laid its head on her shoulder and gave her a final embrace. The mother bear then yelled for her cub, and the two of them vanished into the jungle, never to be seen again. It was difficult to think anyone would believe the amazing event she had just gone through. If it weren't for the massive bear footprints surrounding her, many may have doubted her. Her parents, meanwhile, were just glad she had survived it completely. Her parents had been alarmed by Alice's message and were anxious for her to let them know she was okay. She appreciated their care, though. They left the woods when her dad walked back up to get the things she had stolen from her rucksack. As Alice underwent basic training and even entered battle, the experience lingered with her. She will recall her fortitude that day whenever she faced challenges in her life. She was always able to find the strength to overcome any challenge thanks to this. The cub had grown up by the time she returned to the hills. It even had its own family. She felt a tremendous feeling of success as she watched them. She always had the impression that the bear knew her from a distance, even if she couldn't be positive, and that was something quite unique. Thank you for viewing. Come back for many more amazing tales. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.